The alarm rang through the bridge of the Taewan's Promise at 0400 hours. Jinho was already awake, drinking his third cup of coffee when Mina rushed in. "Chief, we have an unidentified vessel approaching fast. Small craft looks damaged," she said, pulling up the scanner data on the main screen. Jinho set down his cup and studied the readings. The ship was barely holding together. Hull breaches on 3 decks, engine output at 30%, and life support flickering. Someone aboard that vessel was having a very bad day. "Hail them," Jinho ordered. Static filled the bridge for a moment. Then a voice came through, sharp and clear despite the interference. "Human vessel, Taiwan's Promise. This is Envoy Nari of the Velthron territories. I request immediate asylum and an audience with your commanding officer. I carry information vital to your species' survival." Mina looked at Jinho with raised eyebrows. The Velthrans were an insectoid species, part of what used to be a powerful empire in the outer sectors. Used to be. Recent reports suggested their empire had collapsed, though details were scarce. "Why should we trust you?" Jinho asked into the comm. There was a pause. "Because the Kryn sovereignty is hunting me, and soon they will hunt you too." Jinho felt a chill run down his spine. The Kryn were bad news, a massive empire that believed in efficiency above all else. They absorbed or destroyed anyone who stood in their way. Humanity had managed to stay on their good side so far by being small and useful, but everyone knew that could change. "Mina, what do you think?" Jinho asked quietly. "Could be a trap, could be legitimate." "Either way, that ship won't last another hour," Mina replied, her hand resting on her sidearm. Jinho made his decision. "Grant docking permission to Bay 3, full quarantine protocols, armed escort." 20 minutes later, Jinho stood in the observation room overlooking docking Bay 3. Through the reinforced glass, he watched as the damaged Velthran ship limped into position. It looked like it had been through a war. Burn marks covered the hull, and one wing was completely missing. The airlock cycled. A figure emerged. Nari was taller than Jinho expected, nearly 7 feet. Her exoskeleton was a deep purple color with geometric patterns that seemed to shift in the light. 4 arms, 2 legs, and a head with multifaceted eyes that caught every detail. She moved with grace, despite obvious injuries. One of her lower arms hung limp at her side. Security Chief Hyun and 2 armed officers met her at the airlock. She raised her functional arms in a gesture of peace. "I am unarmed," Nari said. Her voice had a musical quality like wind chimes. "I come seeking sanctuary and partnership." "You'll get a medical scan first, then we talk," Hyun said, gesturing toward the medical bay. Nari nodded and followed. Jinho met them in the medical wing where Dr. Yuna was already preparing her equipment. "Fascinating," Yuna muttered as she ran her scanners over Nari. "Multiple organ systems, redundant biological backups. Your species is incredibly resilient." "We were," Nari said softly. "Now we are simply desperate." After the medical examination confirmed Nari carried no pathogens or weapons, Jinho led her to a small conference room. Mina stood by the door, watching every movement. Nari settled into a chair designed for larger species, all 4 arms folded in what Jinho guessed was a formal posture. "Speak," Jinho said simply. Nari's multifaceted eyes fixed on him. "The Velthran Empire has fallen. 3 months ago, the Kryn sovereignty declared us obsolete. They have systematically destroyed our colonies one by one, 17 worlds, billions of my people gone." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Jinho felt his stomach tighten. Genocide. That was the word for what Nari was describing. "Why?" Mina asked from her position by the door. "We refused to surrender our autonomy. The Kryn demanded we join their sovereignty as a subordinate species. Our High Council voted no." "The Kryn do not accept no for an answer." Nari reached into a pouch on her equipment harness and pulled out 3 small data cores. She placed them on the table. These contain everything: military technology, star charts, resource locations, and evidence of Kryn war crimes. I am the last surviving member of the Velthron High Council. I carry the authorization codes for all our remaining military installations. Jinho stared at the data cores. This was bigger than he thought. Much bigger. Why bring this to us? Why humanity? He asked. Nari's head tilted in a way that reminded Jinho of a bird studying something curious. I have observed your species for 2 standard years. I watched your response to the Tarkos IV disaster when volcanic eruptions destroyed 3 cities. You sent aid ships, medical teams, supplies. You asked for nothing in return. I watched you defend the Mindiri trade routes from pirates, even though the Mindiri never paid you. I watched you rescue Palax refugees and resettle them on your colonies. She leaned forward, her 3 functional arms spreading wide. I studied 17 species in the coalition. Only humans consistently act against their own self-interest to help others. Only humans display what you call compassion as a primary behavior, not a rare exception. That sounds like weakness to you, Mina said, her voice hard. Yes, Nari admitted. To my people, such behavior was weakness. We calculated everything: cost versus benefit, efficiency over emotion. We thought ourselves superior because we were logical. Her voice dropped. We were wrong. Logic without compassion made us rigid. We could not adapt, could not build true alliances. When the Kryn came, we stood alone. Our calculated strength became our downfall. Jinho sat back in his chair, processing this. He had never thought about humanity's emotional nature as a strategic advantage before. What exactly are you asking from us? He said. Asylum for my people, protection. In exchange, we offer our technology and knowledge. But more than that, an alarm cut through the room. Mina's hand went to her earpiece. Chief, we have a Kryn patrol ship dropping out of hyperspace. They're hailing us. Jinho stood quickly. This conversation isn't over. Mina with me. Hyun, keep our guest comfortable and secure. As he strode toward the bridge, Jinho felt the weight of command pressing down on his shoulders. Whatever he decided in the next few minutes would change everything. The Kryn didn't just show up by coincidence. They were hunting Nari, and now his ship was caught in the middle. On the bridge, the main screen showed the Kryn vessel. It was 3 times the size of the Taiwan's Promise, bristling with weapons. A face appeared on screen, angular features, pale gray skin, cold eyes that showed no emotion. Human vessel, this is Commander Vex of the Kryn Sovereignty. You are harboring a wanted criminal. Surrender the Velthron named Nari immediately. You have 1 standard hour to comply. Refusal will be considered an act of hostility. The screen went dark. Mina looked at Jinho. Orders, Chief? Jinho stared at the Kryn ship on the tactical display. His crew was watching him, waiting. 1 hour, 1 decision. He thought about what Nari had said. Compassion over calculation. Standing up even when logic said to back down. Get me Hyun on the comm, Jinho said quietly, and start plotting a course into that asteroid field on our port side. We're going to need some cover. You're not seriously going to fight them? Mina asked. Jinho smiled, but there was no humor in it. I'm going to do what humans do best. I'm going to improvise. 58 minutes remained on the Kryn ultimatum when Jinho called the senior staff to the bridge. Nari stood in the corner, silent and still as a statue. Her multifaceted eyes tracked every movement around her. Status report, Jinho said, sliding into his command chair. Hyun pulled up a schematic of the nearby asteroid field. The field is dense, lots of metallic asteroids that will mess with their sensors. We can navigate it, but it will be tight. 1 wrong move and we become a new crater on a space rock. Their ship is bigger and stronger, Mina added, highlighting the Kryn vessel on the tactical screen. Military-grade shields, plasma cannons that can punch through our hull in 3 direct hits. We can't outrun them, and we definitely can't outgun them. But they are overconfident, Nari said suddenly. All eyes turned to her. She stepped forward, moving with surprising quiet for someone so large. The Kryn believe their technology makes them invincible. They follow predictable patterns. They do not improvise well. Jinho gestured for her to continue. I have their shield frequency data in my cores, Nari explained. Standard Kryn military vessels use rotating shield harmonics, but the rotation follows a mathematical pattern. If you can match the frequency at the exact moment of impact, your weapons will pass through as if the shields do not exist. That's a hell of a big if, Mina muttered. How accurate is this data? Jinho asked. 3 months old. But the Kryn do not change their systems often. They believe perfection has already been achieved. There was something like bitter amusement in Nari's voice. Jinho stood and walked to the view screen showing the asteroid field. It was a navigator's nightmare, thousands of rocks tumbling through space in chaotic patterns. But chaos could be an ally if you knew how to use it. Here is what we are going to do, he said slowly. We are going to lead them into the field. We will make them chase us through the densest section. Hyun, you will plot a course that takes us through the narrowest gaps. Gaps their ship cannot fit through. They will just go around, Mina objected. Exactly, which gives us time to set a trap. Jinho turned to Nari. Upload your data to our weapons system. Mina, I need you to calculate the shield rotation timing. When they emerge from going around the asteroids, we hit them with everything we have got. This is insane, Hyun said, but he was already working on the navigation calculations. It's human, Jinho corrected with a slight smile. The comm crackled. Human vessel, your time is up. Surrender the Velthran or be destroyed. Jinho opened the channel. Commander Vex, I am afraid I cannot do that. The Velthran envoy has requested asylum under Coalition law. As a Coalition member, we are obligated to grant protection to refugees fleeing persecution. There was a pause. When Vex spoke again, his voice was colder. You dare to invoke law against the sovereignty? Your species is insignificant. Stand down. I really cannot do that, Jinho repeated. Then he cut the channel and looked at his navigator. Get us into that asteroid field. Now! The Taiwan's promise surged forward. Behind them, the Kryn ship followed, weapons charging. The first plasma bolt missed by 50 meters, superheating a nearby asteroid and causing fragments to explode outward. Entering the field, Hyun announced, his hands dancing across the controls. The ship twisted and dove, sliding between 2 massive asteroids with less than 10 meters clearance on each side. Jinho gripped his armrest as the hull groaned. Another plasma bolt struck an asteroid to their port side, sending debris cascading across their path. Shields at 90%, Mina called out. Nari watched from her position, absolutely still. Jinho noticed her eyes never blinked, just watched everything with complete focus. Narrow gap approaching, Hyun said. This is it. The Kryn ship cannot follow directly. The Taiwan's promise, threaded through a space barely wider than its own hull. Asteroids scraped against the shields with a sound like fingernails on metal. Behind them, the Kryn ship was forced to alter course, moving up and around the obstruction. Perfect, Jinho said. Mina, status on the shield frequency? Loaded and synchronized. I have the pattern. But Chief, we only get one shot at this. If the timing is off by even a fraction of a second, the shields will hold, and we will just make them angry. No pressure, Jinho muttered. They emerged from the asteroid field into a relatively clear zone. Jinho immediately ordered full stop and rotated the ship to face back toward the field. Weapons hot. Target lock on the emergence point. Nari, are you certain about this data? As certain as I can be, Nari replied. My people died believing in certainty. I have learned to accept doubt. 30 seconds passed. 45. Then the Kryn ship emerged from behind a cluster of asteroids. exactly where Jinho predicted. "Fire!" Jinho ordered. The Taiwan's promise unleashed everything. Kinetic railguns, laser batteries, and their two precious plasma torpedoes all converged on the Kryn vessel. For a heartbeat, Jinho thought it would not work. The Kryn shields shimmered, glowing bright blue. Then the weapons passed through the shields as if they were not there at all. The impacts hammered the Kryn hull, explosions blossomed across their starboard side. The ship lurched, atmosphere venting from multiple hull breaches. Their engine section went dark. "Direct hit," Mina said, her voice showing shock. "Their main systems are down. They are dead in the water." The bridge erupted in cheers. Jinho allowed himself a brief smile, then held up his hand for quiet. "Damage report on our ship? Shields at 78%. Minor hull damage on deck 3. Nothing critical," Heian reported. Jinho opened a channel to the Kryn ship. "Commander Vex, your vessel is disabled. I am offering immediate rescue for you and your crew. We will provide medical assistance and safe passage to the nearest Kryn outpost." Static answered him. Then Vex's voice, tight with pain and fury. "You would rescue us? After we tried to destroy you?" "We do not leave people to die in space," Jinho said simply. "Not even enemies. You have 10 minutes to evacuate your crew to life pods. We will pick you up." He cut the channel. Every eye on the bridge was staring at him. "Chief?" Mina said slowly. "Are you sure about this?" "No," Jinho admitted. "But it is the right thing to do." He glanced at Nari. She was standing completely still, her head tilted in that strange way. Her multifaceted eyes seemed to shimmer. "You truly mean this?" Nari said. It was not a question. "Yes." "You will rescue those who tried to kill you?" "Yes." "This is illogical." "Yes." Nari's four arms folded in a complex gesture Jinho did not recognize. When she spoke, her voice was very quiet. "I begin to understand why I came to you." Over the next hour, they rescued 43 Kryn crew members. Dr. Yuna worked overtime treating injuries, treating enemies with the same care she would give her own crew. The Kryn prisoners were placed in secure quarters, but they received food, water, and medical attention. Commander Vex was the last to be brought aboard. He was injured, his leg badly burned. As he was carried past Jinho on a stretcher, he spoke. "This makes no sense. We are enemies." "Maybe," Jinho said, "but today, you are people who need help. Tomorrow we can go back to being enemies if you insist. Today you are just someone who needs to not die." Vex stared at him with those cold, calculating eyes. "Your species is very strange." "Thank you," Jinho replied. That night, Jinho found Nari in the observation deck. She was standing at the window, looking out at the stars. The disabled Kryn ship sat in the distance, emergency lights blinking. "Cannot sleep?" Jinho asked, joining her at the window. "My species requires less sleep than yours. I have been thinking about why you fight. My people fought for territory, for resources, for dominance. The Kryn fight for order and efficiency. But humans fight for ideas, for principles. You rescued those Kryn not because it benefited you, but because you believe it is right." Jinho nodded slowly. "Is that so strange? To every other species I have known?" "Yes, very strange." Nari turned to look at him. "And perhaps that is exactly what the galaxy needs." She reached into her harness and pulled out a small device. "I have a proposal for you, Chief Jinho. But first, we must reach your diplomatic station. What I offer will change the relationship between our species, and possibly the balance of power in this entire sector." Jinho looked at the device, then at Nari's alien face. Something told him his life had just become much more complicated. "I look forward to hearing it," he said. Outside the window, the stars burned cold and distant, but inside the ship, Something warm flickered to life. Trust, understanding, the beginning of something new. The Taiwan's promise set course for New Busan Station, carrying its unusual cargo and an even more unusual hope. 3 weeks into the journey to New Busan Station, Nari had become a strange but constant presence on the Taiwan's promise. She spent most of her time in the ship's library, accessing human databases, history, culture, wars, art, music. She consumed information like she was starving for it. Jinho found her there often during his off hours. Tonight, she was watching old Earth documentaries about the Second World War. "You have studied this conflict before?" Nari asked, without looking up from the screen. "Required learning in school," Jinho replied, settling into a chair nearby. "Why are you watching it?" "I am trying to understand something." Nari paused the video on an image of soldiers sharing food with children in a destroyed city. These soldiers, they were enemies of these people only weeks before. Yet here they are, providing aid, protecting them. "War is complicated," Jinho said. "No, war is simple. Destroy the enemy. What humans do is complicated." Nari turned her multifaceted eyes to him. "You make war to end war. You fight so others do not have to fight. You defeat enemies and then help them rebuild. This is unprecedented in my experience." Jinho shifted uncomfortably. He had never thought about it that way. "We are not perfect. We have done terrible things too. I know. I have read about your genocides, your slavery, your wars of conquest." Nari stood, her full height impressive even in the small library. "But you also abolished slavery. You created laws against genocide. You built institutions to prevent war. You learn. You change. You become better than you were." She gestured to the screen with one of her 4 arms. "My people would have seen those children as enemy offspring, future threats to be eliminated. The Kryn would have calculated the resource cost of feeding them and moved on. But humans, you see children. Just children. And you cannot help but protect them." "It is not weakness," Jinho said quietly, understanding what she was really asking. "I am beginning to believe you, but I needed to be certain." Nari picked up a datapad and handed it to him. "I have a formal request. I wish to present my proposal to you tomorrow in the observation deck. I will need Mina and Hyun present as well." Jinho took the datapad. "That sounds serious." "It is the most serious thing I have ever done," Nari said. The next day, Jinho gathered his senior officers in the observation deck. The stars stretched out before them, endless and cold. Nari stood at the center of the room, her posture formal. All 4 arms were arranged in what Jinho now recognized as an official diplomatic stance. "Thank you for meeting with me," Nari began. "I have not been entirely honest about who I am." Mina's hand moved toward her sidearm. Jinho held up a hand to stop her. "Continue," he said. "I told you I am a Velthran envoy. This is true, but I did not tell you I am the last surviving member of the Velthran High Council. I carry the rank of First Counselor. In your terms, I am the closest thing my species has to a leader." The room went very quiet. "I carry authorization codes for every remaining Velthran military installation across 3 sectors," Nari continued. "Weapons platforms, shipyards, research stations, all abandoned when my people fled. The Kryn have not found them yet, but they will. It is only a matter of time." She pulled out the 3 data cores again, holding them up. "These contain not just information, but access. Biotechnology centuries ahead of human development, shield harmonics, engine designs, medical advances that could cure diseases you have struggled with for generations." "And you want to give these to us?" Hyun asked, his voice skeptical. "No, I want to trade them." Nari set the cores on a small table. "I am proposing a formal alliance between humanity and the Velthran refugees. Approximately 8 million of my people still survive, scattered across the outer sectors. They are being hunted. They will be extinct within a standard year unless someone helps them. In exchange for technology, Mina said flatly. In exchange for survival, for both our species. Nari turned to face them fully. The Kryn sovereignty is expanding. You have avoided their attention so far because you are small and useful. But humanity is growing. Your colonies spread further each year. Eventually you will be in their way. And when that happens, you will face what my people faced. Jinho felt a chill run through him. He had known this deep down. Everyone in the coalition knew the Kryn were a sleeping threat. Why us? He asked. The coalition has more powerful species, more established empires. Because none of them would help, Nari said simply. I approached the Meridian Union first. They refused, citing economic concerns. The Tarlax Federation said protecting refugees was not their responsibility. The Corvin Assembly did not even respond to my messages. She walked to the window, looking out at the stars. I spent 2 standard years studying species in the coalition. I watched how they responded to crisis, to conflict, to the suffering of others. And I learned something that my people should have learned centuries ago. Nari turned back to them. Technology alone does not determine who survives. Neither does pure logic. What determines survival is the ability to build genuine alliances, to inspire loyalty, to make others want to fight beside you, not just for profit, but because they believe in what you stand for. That is a nice speech, Mina said, her voice hard. But you are asking us to risk war with the most powerful empire in this sector, for a species we barely know. I am asking you to be what you already are, Nari replied. When you rescued those Kryn crew members, you gained nothing. You risked your own people to save enemies. Commander Vex is currently in your brig and Dr. Yuna still treats his injuries every day. Why? Because it is the right thing to do, Jinho said quietly. Exactly. Nari's voice grew stronger. That is what makes humans unique. You ask yourselves, what is the right thing to do? Before you ask, what benefits us most? The Veltrons asked only the second question. We are now nearly extinct. Perhaps there is a lesson in that. She picked up one of the data cores. I do not just offer technology. I offer my people's knowledge of the Kryn. We fought them for 6 months before we fell. We learned their tactics, their weaknesses, their patterns. We know which of their subject species are unhappy. We know which sectors are poorly defended. We know where their supply lines are stretched thin. Intelligence, Hyun said, leaning forward with interest. Extensive intelligence, and more than that. Nari set the core down gently. I offer you the truth of why I really chose humanity. In all my research, I found something remarkable. Humans do not just form alliances of convenience. You form friendships, partnerships. You integrate other species into your colonies, your crews, your lives. You marry across species lines. You adopt alien children. You blur the boundaries between us and them. She gestured to the window, to the vast galaxy beyond. There are 17 major species in the coalition. I have counted the number of cross-species marriages, adoptions, and integrated communities for each. The Corvin have 12 documented cases. The Meridians have 43. The Tarlax have none. And humans? Jinho asked. Over 15,000 documented cases, and that is just in the official records. Nari's voice held something like wonder. You do not just tolerate aliens. You welcome them. You make them family. This is unprecedented. Mina had moved away from the door, drawn in despite her skepticism. That still does not answer why you think we will fight the Kryn for you. Because you already fight for others, Nari said. The Tarkos disaster relief, the Mindiri trade route defense, the Palax refugee resettlement, the Corvin medical mission, the Meridian station repair after the solar flare. Should I continue? I have documented 47 instances in the past decade where human forces intervened to help other species with no direct benefit to humanity. She looked directly at Jinho. You fight for ideas, Chief Jinho, for hope, for the belief that the strong should protect the weak. These are not calculations. These are values. And values are what build civilizations that last. The room was silent for a long moment. Jinho looked at his officers. Mina's face was unreadable. Hyun looked thoughtful. What exactly are you asking for? Jinho said finally. Sanctuary for my people, protection for our refugee convoys, help establishing a safe zone where we can rebuild. In exchange, full technology transfer, military intelligence on the Kryn, and the loyalty of every Velthron who survives because of you. That is asking for a war, Mina said. Yes, a war that is coming whether you want it or not. The only question is whether you face it alone or with allies who remember that you helped them when no one else would. Nari walked to stand directly in front of Jinho. I am not asking you to save my people out of charity. I am asking you to build the alliance that will be needed to resist the Kryn. My people have technology and knowledge, but we lost because we had no friends, no one willing to stand with us. And you think we can do better? Jinho asked. I know you can, because you already do. Nari's voice was quiet now. I watched your crew these past 3 weeks. I saw Hyun teach me how to play your chess game. I saw Dr. Yuna share her lunch with me, even though my species eats things humans find disturbing. I saw Mina show me pictures of her family on Earth. You did not have to do these things. I am an alien, a stranger, possibly a burden, but you made me feel welcome anyway. She folded all 4 arms in a complex gesture. That is what I want for my people. Not just survival, not just shelter. I want them to learn what it means to be part of something larger than themselves, to fight for more than just calculations and efficiency, to understand that compassion is not weakness. That is what you really want, Jinho said, understanding flooding through him. You do not just want an alliance, you want your people to change. Yes, Nari admitted. We were wrong about so many things. We thought logic alone was enough. We were arrogant and cold. And now we are dying. If we survive this, I want us to be different, better. And I can think of no better teachers than the species who rescues their enemies from dying in space. Jinho stood, walking to the window. Outside, the stars burned. Somewhere out there, millions of Velthran refugees were running, hiding, dying. And somewhere else, the Kryn war machine continued its slow, efficient expansion. I cannot promise anything, he said finally. This decision is above my authority. But I will bring your proposal to the Colonial Council at New Busan. I will speak on your behalf. That is all I ask, Nari said. And I will tell them the truth, that saying no might be the logical choice, the safe choice. But it is not the human choice. Nari's multifaceted eyes seemed to shimmer. Thank you, Chief Jinho. As she left the observation deck, Mina moved to stand beside Jinho at the window. You know this could go very badly, she said quietly. I know. We might be starting a war we cannot win. I know. But you are going to push for it anyway. Yes. Mina was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled slightly. Good, because she is right. We are going to fight the Kryn eventually. Might as well have someone watching our backs when we do. Jinho looked at his second-in-command in surprise. She shrugged. What? I have been paying attention too. And anyone who can outsmart Kryn's shield frequencies after being hunted for 3 months is someone I want on our side. Outside, the stars continued their ancient dance. But inside the ship, the seeds of something new had been planted. An alliance built not on calculation, but on hope. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. New Busan Station hung in space like a massive wheel, slowly rotating to provide artificial gravity. It was the diplomatic heart of human space, where the Colonial Council met to decide matters that affected all human colonies. As the Taiwan's promise approached, Jinho felt the weight of what was coming pressed down on his shoulders. "They know we are bringing her?" Mina asked, standing beside him on the bridge. "They know, and they are not happy about it." Jinho pulled up the messages he had received over the past week. Most were not friendly. Several council members had expressed serious concerns about harboring a Velthron refugee. The Kryn had already sent 3 formal complaints. "How bad is it?" Hyun asked from his station. "Bad. The Kryn are threatening economic sanctions if we do not hand Nari over. They have also suggested that continued protection of Velthron refugees would be considered a hostile act." "That is a declaration of war hiding behind diplomatic language," Mina said. "Exactly." Jinho straightened his uniform. Docking procedures initiated. "Nari, are you ready?" The Velthron envoy stood near the back of the bridge. Over the past weeks, she had become less alien to them. Jinho could read her body language now, the subtle movements of her 4 arms that indicated her emotional state. Right now, she was nervous. "As ready as I will ever be," Nari said. "Thank you for standing with me this far." "We are not done yet," Jinho replied. The station's docking bay was heavily guarded. 6 armed security officers waited as they disembarked. Jinho recognized the precaution. The council was taking no chances. Station Commander Yaren met them in the corridor. She was a compact woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Chief Jinho, your guest has caused quite a disturbance," she said without preamble. "She has a name. Envoy Nari of the Velthron territories." Yaren glanced at Nari with an expression Jinho could not quite read. "The council will see you in 2 hours. There is a holding room prepared for your envoy. For her safety, of course." "Of course," Jinho said dryly. The holding room was clean but clearly a cell. Reinforced walls, monitored by cameras. Nari entered without complaint, folding her 4 arms in that formal stance she used when dealing with officials. "I will be there at the hearing," Jinho promised. "I know. That is why I am not afraid." Nari's multifaceted eyes fixed on him. "Whatever happens, you have already given me something I did not expect." "What?" "Hope that we made the right choice." The Colonial Council chamber was designed to impress. A circular room with seats arranged in tiers, overlooking a central speaking floor. 13 counselors sat in judgment. Jinho recognized most of them. Some were friends. Others were political opponents who had clashed with him before. At the head of the council sat head counselor Sora. She was in her 60s, a career diplomat known for being pragmatic and careful. To her right sat military liaison Taiho, a hard-faced man who had served in the Colonial Defense Force for 30 years. He believed in strength and was suspicious of aliens. "Chief Jinho," Sora said, her voice echoing slightly in the chamber. "You have placed us in a difficult position. Please explain your actions." Jinho stood at the center of the floor. Behind him, Nari waited in a side chamber, visible through a transparent partition. They had arranged it so she could observe the proceedings. 3 weeks ago, we encountered a Velthron refugee fleeing Kryn persecution. She requested asylum. Under coalition law, we are obligated to provide protection to refugees fleeing genocide. "Genocide is a strong word," Taiho interrupted. "Do you have proof?" Jinho pulled up a holographic display and played the footage Nari had provided. The council chamber fell silent as images filled the space. Velthron colonies burning, bodies in the streets, Kryn ships systematically bombarding cities from orbit. The footage ran for 5 minutes. Several counselors looked away. When it ended, Sora spoke quietly. "Thank you. That is sufficient. However, the question before us is not whether the Velthrons are suffering. The question is whether humanity should involve itself in their conflict with the Kryn sovereignty." "Involve itself?" Jinho felt anger rising in his chest. We are talking about millions of lives. About a species facing extinction. We are also talking about potentially provoking the most powerful empire in this sector, Taiho said sharply. The Kryn have sent us an ultimatum. Surrender the Velthron envoy and promise to refuse all future Velthron refugees or face economic sanctions, possibly military action. A murmur ran through the council. And what does that make us? Jinho demanded. What are we if we hand over a refugee to the people trying to exterminate her species? What do our values mean if we abandon them the moment it becomes inconvenient? Your values are admirable, Sora said. But I must consider the safety and prosperity of billions of human colonists. Economic sanctions would devastate our trade. War with the Kryn would be suicide. Then let me explain what Envoy Nari is really offering. Jinho pulled up another display showing the data core's contents. Advanced biotechnology, medical breakthroughs, shield harmonics that let us bypass Kryn defenses, engine designs that could cut travel time by 30%, star charts showing resource-rich systems, and military intelligence on the Kryn sovereignty that could change the balance of power in this entire sector. The council leaned forward. Even Tai-Ho looked interested. In exchange for what? Asked Councillor Bora, a young woman from the outer colonies. Sanctuary for 8 million Velthran refugees, protection while they rebuild, recognition as an allied species. That is asking us to start a war, Tai-Ho said. No. It is asking us to prepare for a war that is already coming. Jinho gestured to a galactic map. The Kryn expand every year. Right now we are useful to them. Small enough to ignore, productive enough to trade with. But look at these projections. In 10 years, our colonies will overlap with Kryn expansion zones. In 20 years, we will be in their way. What do you think happens then? The map showed the inevitable collision course between human expansion and Kryn territory. We face them eventually, Jinho continued. The only question is whether we face them alone or with allies, with technology and intelligence that gives us a fighting chance. Or we could avoid expansion in those directions, Tai-Ho suggested, alter our colonization patterns, and limit our growth to accommodate their expansion? Jinho shook his head. That makes us subordinate. It makes us afraid. Is that what humanity has become? A species too scared to stand up for what is right? It makes us pragmatic, Tai-Ho snapped, something you apparently are not. Perhaps we should hear from the Velthron envoy herself, Sora said. Bring her in. Nari entered the chamber, moving with that strange grace. She stood beside Jinho at the center of the floor. 13 pairs of human eyes watched her with varying degrees of suspicion, curiosity, and fear. Envoy Nari, Sora said formally. You have made a proposal to Chief Jinho. Please present your case to this council. Nari stood silent for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was clear and strong. I will not lie to you. What I ask requires courage. It requires risk. My people are desperate, and desperation makes poor decisions. But I did not come to you because you are strong. I came because you are good. Explain, Sora said. I studied 17 species before approaching humanity. I calculated their military strength, their technological level, their resources. By logic, there were 6 species better suited to be allies than humans. Stronger, richer, more advanced, but I chose you anyway. Why? Taiho demanded. Because strength without character is just another form of tyranny. The Kryn are strong, they are efficient, they are logical, and they use that strength to crush anyone who does not submit to their order. My people were also strong in our way. We calculated everything. We believed emotion was weakness. We were wrong. Strength without compassion does not build civilizations that last. It builds empires that eventually stand alone and fall alone. Nari walked slowly around the speaking floor, her multifaceted eyes taking in each counselor. Chief Jinho and his crew rescued Kryn soldiers, They're enemies. They risked their own lives to save people who had just tried to kill them. This is not logical, but it is right. And that rightness is more powerful than any weapon because it inspires loyalty. It builds trust. It creates true allies, not just temporary partnerships of convenience. Beautiful words, Taiho said, but words do not stop plasma cannons. No, but the technology I offer does, and the intelligence I provide reveals where those plasma cannons are weakest. Nari turned to face him directly. You think accepting my proposal means war, but war is coming regardless. The Kryn do not negotiate. They dominate or destroy. You can face them unprepared and alone, or prepared with allies who will fight beside you because you earned their loyalty. Counselor Bora spoke up. What exactly do your people offer beyond technology? Knowledge, experience. We fought the Kryn for 6 months. We learned their tactics, their weaknesses, their patterns. We know which of their conquered species are unhappy and might rebel if given support. We know their supply routes and where they are vulnerable. We paid for this knowledge with the deaths of billions. But at least that sacrifice can have meaning if it helps others resist them. The chamber was quiet. Jinho could see counselors thinking, calculating, weighing options. There is something else you should know, Nari said quietly. I am not just a refugee. I am the last surviving member of the Velthron High Council. If I die, the authorization codes for our military installations die with me. If I live and my people are saved, those installations become shared assets, shipyards, research stations, defense platforms, not just data but actual physical infrastructure. You would share control of military assets with us? Sora asked, surprise in her voice. Yes, because I want my people to change. We were too isolated, too arrogant. If we survive, we will do it differently. We will learn from humans how to build alliances based on more than calculations. Nari's voice grew stronger. You ask what we offer? We offer everything. Our technology, our knowledge, our loyalty, our military assets, in exchange for the chance to survive and learn to be better than we were. She walked back to stand beside Jinho. But more than that, we offer you a choice. You can be the species that sacrifices principle for safety. Or you can be the species that stands up for what is right even when it is difficult. The choice will define what humanity becomes. Not just what you are now, but what you will be for centuries to come. The council chamber fell into silence. Sora looked at her fellow counselors, reading their faces. We will vote, she said finally. But first, deliberation. Chief Jinho, Envoy Nari, please wait outside. Jinho and Nari stood in the corridor outside the chamber. Through the thick doors, they could hear muffled voices arguing. The debate went on for hours. Do you think they will agree? Nari asked quietly. I do not know, Jinho admitted. But we made the best case we could. You made the best case. I simply told the truth. Sometimes the truth is the best case. The doors opened. Commander Yeren gestured them back inside. Jinho's heart pounded as they returned to the speaking floor. Sora stood, her face unreadable. The Colonial Council has voted. 7 in favor, 6 against. By the narrowest possible margin, we accept the Velthron proposal. Relief flooded through Jinho. Beside him, Nari's 4 arms trembled slightly. However, Sora continued, her voice stern, this comes with conditions. Chief Jinho, you are promoted to Admiral. You will command a task force to establish safe zones for Velthron refugees and defend them against Kryn aggression. You will coordinate with Envoy Nari to access Velthron military installations and integrate their technology into our defense systems, and you will do everything possible to avoid escalating this conflict beyond what is necessary. I understand, Jinho said. Sora looked at Nari. As for you, Envoy, welcome to the Alliance. I hope you are right about us. because if this goes wrong, it will cost both our species everything. It will not go wrong, Nari said, because for the first time, my people will fight for something more than survival. We will fight for the idea that compassion is not weakness, and we will have teachers who live that idea every day. As they left the council chamber, Nari stopped in the corridor. "Thank you," she said to Jinho, "for speaking for us, for believing we deserve a chance." "Everyone deserves a chance," Jinho replied. "That is what makes us human." Outside the station, the stars waited, and somewhere in that darkness, the Kryn prepared their response. But for the first time in months, Nari allowed herself to feel something her people had almost forgotten: hope. Admiral Jinho stood on the bridge of the Taiwan's Pride, the flagship of the newly formed 1st Defense Fleet. The ship was larger than his old vessel, equipped with the latest human technology and, now, Veltron enhancements. Beside him, Nari worked at a specialized console designed for her four-armed physiology. "Status of the refugee convoy?" Jinho asked. 247 ships, carrying approximately 300,000 Velthran civilians, reported Captain Deho, his new tactical officer. "They are on course for the rendezvous point in the Valine Corridor. And the Kryn blockade?" "Still in position, 8 warships heavily armed. They are not moving." Deho frowned at his display. "Sir, we are outnumbered 2-1. Our fleet has 4 cruisers and 12 support vessels. This is going to be bloody." Jinho nodded slowly. 3 weeks had passed since the Council's vote. In that time, humanity had moved fast, safe zones had been established, refugee ships had been gathered, and the Kryn had responded exactly as expected. They established blockades on every major refugee route, daring humanity to challenge them. The Valine Corridor was the most important. It was the only safe passage through an asteroid field that stretched for 3 light years. Control the corridor, control the refugee flow. The Kryn knew this. So did Jinho. "They expect us to back down," Mina said. She had been promoted to captain and commanded one of the escort cruisers. "They think we will calculate the cost and decide it is not worth it." "They do not understand humans very well, do they?" Jinho said with a slight smile. Nari looked up from her console. "I have analyzed their formation. They are using standard Kryn defensive positioning, strong but inflexible. They assume their superior firepower will be enough." "Can we break through?" Jinho asked. "With conventional tactics? No. But you are not a conventional tactician." Nari pulled up a 3-dimensional map of the battlefield. "I have been studying human military history for the past 3 weeks. Your species excels at asymmetric warfare. You fight in ways the enemy does not expect." "What are you thinking?" Deho asked. Nari's multifaceted eyes gleamed. "The Kryn position themselves to dominate the main corridor. But there are secondary routes through the asteroid field. Dangerous. Most species would not risk civilian ships in those passages, but human pilots have successfully navigated worse." She highlighted several narrow passages through the field. "If we split the refugee convoy and send them through multiple routes simultaneously, the Kryn cannot cover all of them. They will have to choose which groups to pursue, and while they are dividing their forces, we hit them hard where they are weakest," Jinho finished. "I like it, but we need to make sure those civilian ships have the best pilots we have." "Already arranged," Mina said over the comm. "I have assigned our most experienced navigators to the refugee ships. They will get through. Then let us give the Kryn something to think about." Jinho opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Admiral Jinho. In 30 minutes, we will engage the Kryn blockade. We are not fighting for territory or resources today. We are fighting for 300,000 people who deserve the chance to live. We are fighting to show the galaxy that strength is not just about who has the biggest guns. It is about who has the courage to stand up for what is right. Give them everything we have." The fleet acknowledged. Jinho could feel the tension building. This was it, the first real test of the human-Veltron alliance. "Nari," Jinho said quietly, "are your people ready for this?" "My people are grateful, terrified, but grateful." Nari's voice was soft. "They still do not fully understand why you are doing this. Many of them think there must be some hidden calculation, some benefit you are not revealing. They do not yet believe in altruism. Maybe after today they will start to." The refugee convoy began its approach. As predicted, the Kryn detected them immediately. The blockade ships moved into aggressive positions, weapons charging. "Sir, receiving transmission from the Kryn commander," Deho reported. "Put it through." A Kryn face appeared on screen. Cold, angular, emotionless. "Human fleet, you are in violation of sovereignty territory. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. This is your only warning." "Sovereignty territory?" Jinho replied. "Interesting. I have reviewed the charts. This corridor is in neutral space according to coalition law. You have no legal claim here." "Law is irrelevant. Power is what matters. You are outgunned. Withdraw." "I respectfully decline." The Kryn commander's expression did not change, but there was a hint of surprise in his voice. "You choose to die for aliens? For refugees who offer you nothing?" "They offer us friendship, loyalty, trust. Perhaps you do not value those things. We do." "Then you are fools." The transmission cut off. "Convoy splitting into 4 groups," Deho announced. "Entering the secondary passages now." The refugee ships broke formation, each group diving into narrow corridors through the asteroid field. The Kryn blockade immediately reacted, ships peeling off to pursue each group. "Now!" Jinho ordered. The human fleet surged forward, targeting the weakened center of the Kryn formation. Weapons blazed. The Taiwan's Pride led the charge, using the Veltron shield frequencies Nari had provided. The first volley of Kryn plasma fire passed harmlessly through their shields, just as it had weeks ago in their first encounter. The Kryn ships seemed to stagger in confusion. Their weapons were ineffective. By the time they adjusted their frequencies, the human fleet was already in close range. "All batteries fire!" Jinho commanded. The battle became chaos. Human ships weaved through the Kryn formation, using superior maneuverability to offset the enemy's heavier armor. The Kryn fought with cold efficiency, but they were not prepared for the unpredictability of human tactics. Jinho watched his tactical display as the battle unfolded. 2 Kryn ships disabled. 1 human cruiser damaged but still fighting. The refugee convoys were making progress through the asteroid passages. "Sir, the lead Kryn battleship is targeting the refugee group in Passage 3, Deho warned. "They are going to ignore us and go straight for the civilians." "Like hell they are!" Jinho opened a channel to Mina's ship. "Captain Mina, I need you to make a run at that battleship. Get its attention." "On it." Mina's cruiser broke formation and accelerated toward the battleship, firing everything it had. The Kryn ship turned to meet the threat, its massive plasma cannons swiveling to track the smaller vessel. "They have locked weapons on Captain Mina's ship," Deho said, tension in his voice. Nari suddenly spoke up. "Admiral, I can help. Uploading override codes to that battleship's systems now. It is an older model." "I know the security protocols." Her 4 arms moved across her console in a blur. On the tactical display, the Kryn battleship suddenly went dark. All its systems shut down simultaneously. "What did you do?" Jinho asked in amazement. "Emergency shutdown command. I was High Counselor, remember? The Kryn use modified Veltron technology in many of their older ships, technology they stole from us years ago. I simply took it back." The disabled battleship drifted, helpless. The human fleet seized the opportunity, focusing fire on the remaining Kryn vessels. One by one, they were either disabled or forced to withdraw. "Sir, all refugee groups have cleared the danger zones," Deho reported, relief in his voice. "They are through the corridor and heading for safe space." Jinho let out a breath he did not know he had been holding. Casualties? 2 ships damaged, no losses. The Kryn lost 3 ships destroyed, 4 disabled. They are retreating. The bridge erupted in cheers. Jinho allowed himself a smile. They had done it. 300,000 lives saved. But he knew this was just the beginning. Over the comm, Mina's voice came through. That was some fancy computer work, Envoy Nari. Remind me never to let you near my ship systems. Nari's voice held something Jinho had never heard before. Amusement. I will try to restrain myself, Captain. 6 hours later, the fleet rendezvoused with the refugee convoy in safe space. Jinho stood in the docking bay as the first Velthran refugees came aboard. They moved hesitantly, their multifaceted eyes wide with fear and exhaustion. A young Velthran, barely an adult by their standards, approached Jinho. She folded her 4 arms in a gesture of deep respect. You are the Admiral? She asked in halting English. I am. You risked your life, your people's lives. For us. Why? Jinho knelt down so he was closer to her height. Because everyone deserves a chance to live. Because standing up for what is right is more important than standing aside to stay safe. And because maybe, if we help you today, someday you will help someone else. That is how we make the galaxy better. The young Velthran stared at him. Then, slowly, she reached out with one of her hands and touched his shoulder. It was an awkward gesture, clearly something she had seen humans do but did not fully understand. But the meaning was clear. Thank you, she whispered. As more refugees came aboard, Jinho found Nari standing in the observation deck, watching the ships pass by outside. She turned when he entered. 300,000 lives, she said quietly. My people are asking questions. About humans, about why you fight. They are confused. And what do you tell them? I tell them the truth, that humans fight for ideas, for hope, for the belief that compassion is strength, not weakness. Nari paused. But I also tell them something else, something I have only recently understood. What? I tell them that I did not just come seeking allies, I came seeking teachers. Nari turned to face him fully. My people need to learn how to be more than efficient, more than logical. We need to learn how to care about others, even when it does not benefit us. We need to learn how to hope. That is a tall order, Jinho said. I know, but I have watched your crew. I have seen how you treat each other, how you laugh together, mourn together, celebrate together, how you make newcomers feel welcome, how you see people, not just resources or threats. Nari's voice grew stronger. That is what I wish for my people. Not just survival, not just technology. I wish for them to learn to be more like you. Jinho felt the weight of her words. We are not perfect. We have our own problems, our own failures. I know. I have studied your history thoroughly. Your wars, your genocides, your cruelties. But I have also studied how you learned from those failures, how you built laws to prevent them from happening again, how you created institutions dedicated to justice and compassion. You become better. That is what I want for the Velthrons. The chance to become better than we were. That is why you really came to us, Jinho said, understanding fully now. Not just for military alliance, for cultural change. Yes, my people calculated our way into extinction. Perhaps if we learn to feel, to care, to hope, we can avoid making the same mistakes again. Nari looked out at the refugee ships. I have heard human children ask a question constantly. They ask why. Not for calculation, but because they genuinely want to understand. Velthran children do not ask why. They ask, what is the efficient solution? We trained emotion out of them before they could even speak. That is heartbreaking, Jinho said quietly. It is. And it is wrong. I see human children on this ship. They play, they laugh, they cry when they are hurt, they hug their parents. They make friends with alien crew members without hesitation. That is what childhood should be. That is what I want for future Veltron children. A thought occurred to Jinho. Nari, do you have any family? Any of your own children? Her multifaceted eyes seemed to dim. I had a mate, 2 offspring. They died when our capital world was destroyed. I watched it happen from my escape pod. I watched my whole world burn. I am so sorry. So am I. But their deaths will have meaning if I can save others. If I can change our species so that future generations grow up in a galaxy where compassion is valued, where efficiency is not the only measure of worth. Jinho placed a hand on her shoulder, the way she had seen humans comfort each other. You are already changing your people. Every refugee who sees humans risk their lives for strangers is learning that lesson. It will take time, but it will happen. I hope so, because your species has shown me something I did not think existed. A civilization that grows stronger through kindness. An empire built on hope rather than fear. 6 months passed. The Veltron-Human alliance grew stronger. More refugee convoys were rescued. Safe zones were established on 3 colony worlds where humans and Veltrons began building settlements together. Jinho stood on one of those worlds, watching as human and Veltron construction teams worked side by side. Children of both species played in a nearby park, their laughter mixing in the air. A young human girl was teaching a Veltron boy how to kick a soccer ball. The Veltron was terrible at it, his 4 arms flailing awkwardly, but he was laughing, actually laughing. Nari approached, moving with more ease now. She had learned to smile, a complex facial expression her species rarely used. "Do you see that?" she said, pointing to the playing children. "I do. That is the future, not ships or weapons or technology. That." She watched the children play. A Veltron child who knows how to laugh, a human child who sees an alien as just another friend. That is what I wished for. That is what you have helped make possible. "We still have a long way to go," Jinho said. "The Kryn are not giving up. There will be more battles." "I know, but now we face them together. And we face them as something more than allies of convenience. We face them as friends." Nari looked at him. "You asked me once why I came to humanity. I told you about compassion and values and standing for what is right. All true. But there was something else. Something I did not fully understand until now." "What?" "I came to you because my people forgot how to dream. We calculated, we planned, we optimized. But we stopped imagining better futures. We stopped asking, what if we could be more than we are?" Nari gestured to the settlement around them. "Humans never stop dreaming. Even in the darkest times, you dreamed of better days, and then you worked to make those dreams real. Sometimes dreams are all we have," Jinho said. "No, dreams are what make everything else possible." Nari folded all 4 arms in a gesture of deep respect. "Thank you, Admiral Jinho, for showing my people that we could be more than cold logic, for teaching us to hope, for granting my wish." "What wish was that?" "To find a species that would not just fight beside us, but help us become better than we were. To find allies who would show us that the strongest civilizations are not built on calculations of power, but on foundations of compassion." Jinho smiled. "Then welcome to the Alliance, Nari. Welcome to the dream of something better." They stood together, watching as the children played. 2 species, so different, learning to build something new, not an empire of conquest or domination, but a partnership built on mutual respect, shared values, and the radical idea that compassion could be strength. The stars above them shone bright and cold, but here, on this small colony world, something warm burned. The beginning of a new way. A galaxy where species stood together not because they had to, but because they chose to. Where the question was not, what benefits us most, but what is the right thing to do? And in that moment, Nari understood fully what it meant to be human. Not perfection, not superiority, but the constant striving to be better than yesterday. To dream of a world where everyone had a chance. To fight for that dream even when the odds seemed impossible. That was the wish she had come seeking. And in finding it, she had helped create something that would change the galaxy forever. An alliance built not on fear or profit, but on the simple, radical belief that every life mattered. That compassion was not weakness. That hope was not naive. That standing up for strangers was not foolish. It was human. And perhaps, with time and patience, it could become Veltron too. The children's laughter echoed across the colony, and somewhere in the distance, the future waited. Uncertain, dangerous, but no longer hopeless. Because now, they faced it together.